Hi everybody, it's Veterans Voice again with my special guest this week, Dan Marshall. So welcome, Dan. So Veterans Voice is about putting our knowledge across to, or experiences from transition across to people who are leaving the armed forces, and also big up a little bit about what we're doing at the moment. So feel free to add some comments into the chat, and we'll answer them and get a bit of banter going. And we'll also ask Dan a little bit about what he's been up to. But first, there's a very, very important thing to do. Is there not, Dan? We have to say hello to two important people.
We do, yeah,
we
absolutely.
So we have to say hello to Connie and Bea, who are Dan's daughters, and they are watching. So no sweary words from anybody joining us. So say hello in the chat. Hi, Connie and Bea, and say hi in the chat so we know you're there and we know we're actually transmitting. Phil, hello. And so first things first. MasterChef.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Do
okay.
Tell.
Not my finest hour. Bit of a disaster. Not great timing either. Unfortunately, although I've always said I would do it, it was actually applied for by my father, and I ended up suddenly getting a call to go and do a sort of.
We've lost him. He's going to come back, no doubt. So obviously he's back again. This has been a challenging one, I think, from a technical perspective, hasn't it? Because I had to log in.
We're back.
You've not got sound. You're back.
I'm back. Yep.
Yeah, we've had all sorts of challenges, but carry on.
Yeah, so I didn't know I'd applied. I got an audition. I did okay, got through. Unfortunately, it's a terrible time for us as a family. My mother died just as I got that sort of good news. So then there's a frantic period where you have to learn how to cook at super high end before you're going to be on telly, and trying to do fine dining cuisine to the family who are obviously that's the last thing that they want, including myself, wasn't ideal. So didn't have the best to start, but got to the show eventually. Took my father-in-law along as support on his first trip, sort of with me, and I did okay in the first round. I boomed it, I think. I did a Thai green salad sort of thing with chicken on it, and I got by through to the second round, which was all very good. And round three, first half, not too bad with a bit of sea bream and Spanish stew, and then utterly abysmal dessert that was peaches and pastry and sauce.
He's gone again. I think we said Nocturne Wi-Fi. I think that's what you were saying, Phil. He's back in again.
So yeah, it was terrible, but I got binned off at that point, and a good experience, but I wouldn't do it again.
And and Greg Wallace ate all the pies, I take it.
He nicked a lot of your stuff off the bench, and how they got broadcastable material, I don't know. But John was a very helpful mentor during it. It was very good.
Excellent, jolly good. Well, an experience anyway. Whatever the outcome of the cooking. And if you ask my wife, I could burn water. So I think I'd even make a mess out of ration packs. So
exactly.
Quick fire round. Right. Favorite aircraft.
Vulcan to watch, Reaper to play with.
All right. Favorite gin.
Don't really do gin. Much prefer tequila.
All right. Okay. Well, I'm not much on the tequila. Is it a wet or is it a brew?
It's obviously a brew because wets are for the booties, aren't they?
Indeed, yes. Yeah. A handlebar or a goatee?
Handlebars in rigs, I guess.
And your favourite beer?
I like a sour beer. I'll go for the triple mango sour by Vault City. Love a bit of that.
All right. Not a Spitfire then.
No, not Spitfire. That's too obvious.
No. No, well, tequila. Andy said it. Yeah, Andy said I'm to give you a hard time, but given the technical difficulties we've had so far, I think you've already had that. So great to see everybody interacting. Fire the comments in, fire the questions in. and we'll bring as many as we can up. Great to see everybody. First of all, let's get onto the Veterans Voice element of it. Give us a little bit of a flavour of the background of your military career.
So I joined at 18. I was a air cadet before that. All I wanted to do was join the RAF, pretty much, and a bit of a plane geek and all that. Did the usual channel. Didn't go to university because I just wanted to join, and I got a 6 ship. So what interested me was intelligence. I commissioned to the intelligence branch. Did the usual thing at the time back in the late 90s. Went through infantry training. First tour at Jarek at RAF Brampton, where I did a variety of sort of imagery tasks such as UN weapons inspections, supporting some of the conflicts at the time, like Desert Fox and Allied Force. Intro. Went on from there after a small stint in Northern Ireland to the Tornado Force, briefly at Marham, before going out to Bruggen to the Mighty 31. I'm sure there's some people on there who, which was a tour, and did the last sort of 6 months in RAF Germany before the whole place closed down. So we were the last squadron there, but great time with them. My first ever brief as the intelligence officer was at Red Flag, which is the most presentation you could ever have. But a lot of deployments out to the Middle East, and ended my time there in Gulf War II, starting with 31, but then building to be the SLM Combat Air Wing, which was a huge amalgam of all the Tornado squadrons for Gulf War II. From there, went to the Joint Force Air Component Headquarters, which is the deployable headquarters for the RAF, if you like. I was the specialist in tactical ISR management and dynamic targeting. We exercised all over the world. It was just after Gulf War II, so the excitement had happened. It was now into training for the next thing. Spent a good 3 years there. Really enjoyed my time. And then was selected to be an instructor at Chicksans in the Defence School of Intelligence, which, I'll be honest, at the time I went kicking and screaming, thinking I want an ops job. I don't really want to do this, but I had a wonderful time. It was brilliant, and I learned more about my trade by having to stand up and deliver that and brief people, and not get caught with your trousers down. So it was a great tour to get me into sort of training and education. Won a couple of stints in the KOC in LUD, as many of us will be very familiar with. And then I went to do an odd job where I was doing recruiting and marketing for the intelligence trades, so a bit out of kilter. Sort of introduced social media to that of the world, because we were a dark and hidden part of the Air Force at the time, and nobody even knew the trade existed half the time. So we got out onto the social media platforms of the time. I don't think I was appreciated for that, because some of the old and bold may not have understood what I was doing, but it did seem to change and make people at least know who we were. And at the end of that, I was probably the best thing that happened to me. I was selected to be on the inaugural what they call QY-ISR course, the Qualified Weapons Instructor Intelligence Surveillance and Reconnaissance course, which is a 6-month advanced level course, talking about all the tactics and procedures and processes, to do with intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, which has been my bread and butter. Wonderful time. Met some of my greatest friends, some of which now work with me at Inzpire, and that's been sort of my pedigree since. I became an instructor on that course at the end of that, before I then went off to Helmand in Afghanistan for a tour with the US Marine Corps as their ISR manager, which mostly was sat as a fob rat in Bastion, Leatherneck kind of place. But it did give us a nice few trips out and about to other parts of the country and interesting places. On return, I went to sort of bring the RJ into service, and then another stint in the KOC, doing perhaps the best job in ISR you could have, which was basically running the whole of the ISR packages of every day for 6 months in the whole of the CENTCOM area, which is effectively all of Iraq and Syria, Afghanistan, and the Horn of Africa. And I got to play with that as an embedded person with the US Air Force. And yeah, very challenging, but amazing.
I'm saying you don't look that bad for a 60-year-old, given all that experience.
I went grey very quickly, but I still blame the children for that, to be honest.
So I'm guessing Andy's your boss.
Yeah, is he chipping in?
He's fired the question in at the bottom there. Who's been your best ever boss? But
yeah, it goes without saying. It goes without saying.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, and he's definitely not saying. And then there's one coming from Andy again. The best part of being a reservist. It's so.
Yeah, so I am a reservist.
Yes.
So it gives me the freedom to still keep my foot in the water, if you like, and support the front line or the training services as required. It's still a decision to leave the military, who are cut in half, and you've got a roundel in them. So it gives you a little bit of that back. So that's what I continue to do that where I can between my day job.
And that's the segue into where I was going to come to all that late in Korea, and there was a decision to leave and transition out. What made the decision?
So funny you should say that. At the end of that last tour in Al Udeid, which was exciting and amazing, it was definitely the first nail. I came back to my little girl Connie at the time, who obviously by this stage we had things like FaceTime, not the old days of Blueies, and so, but despite that, when I sort of rolled up to the gate on my return, she was like, "Daddy," and it was like at that point I thought, I can't do this anymore. This deployment every 6 months, so frequently as a family guy, priorities had to change. I was lucky enough though to get another tour locally, which turned out to be the best tour I ever had, which was being a flight commander on 13 Squadron with the Reaper, and being an RPAS operator in my own right. That was great, but I knew that it had to be something after that was either local or we're going to fit with my family life. And the end of that, I got my options. It was 2 places that were miles away. I got my dreams. My father-in-law was living with us. I couldn't up sticks and move. I was no way going to be a weekend dad. So my hands were tied. That was the decision sort of made.
So 13 Squadron must know my mate Andy Vaughan.
Indeed, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So he's ex-13, and he's in the drone world, although not with Inzpire. No. I think you're almost looking at the chat that I haven't put up here. Your chums are giving you a little bit of an interview grilling.
Undoubtedly. Yeah.
So you're getting in the neck on it. So anyway, transition. So the purpose of this is to get he's gone again. And he's back again. I think you're going to get the nickname after this, Zebedee, because you're sort of bouncing in.
Well, I will now. You said it.
Yeah. So the transition. We had a brief discussion about this earlier on.
Yep.
How did yours go?
So in terms of physically transitioning to the company I work for now, Inzpire, it couldn't have been easier in many respects. A lot of people I know have that struggle of changing from a military life to civvy street, but as I'll probably cover, that's really not the case for where I work. However, in terms of the physical actions of doing it, hardest buttons in the world to press to go through that when you weren't 100% sure you got a job at the other end. I'll be honest, I don't know if the support we got from the transition was suited across. Certainly for myself, the courses available were project management or woodwork and stuff like that, and not anything I really wanted to do. And the CV writing, when it's told that you've got to do the most minimal CV to get your foot in the door, and it wasn't really selling yourself. So I didn't really find that very useful. Applying for a job, I didn't really apply for a job. I built that relationship over a couple of years. I've known of Inzpire since I went through the QY course, and I knew many of the people that work there, which is part of the beauty of it. and it was finding an opportunity. So once I formally agreed to leave, they were just trying to find the sort, as I was a wanted person, they wanted me, which was.
He's gone again. And he's back. Yeah. You're a wanted person, they wanted you. Can you? Oh, we lost him this time. I think we're in. I'm going to put you out and put you back in again. I moved from the Fens, so I used to live down Lincolnshire way, but I moved to where there was a better signal, and I'm currently from a little set of digs in Barrow-in-Furness, which is not much better. Can you hear me? Oh, I don't think he's going to hear us. So he's gone again. Right, so while he's gone, any really interesting questions that you want to ask me? He's back again.
Yeah.
I can hear you this time.
Honestly, rural life. That's all I can say.
That's it. Well, that's it. Fens Wi-Fi. I live 1,000 feet up in the middle of nowhere, and I get exactly the same problem. It took us a week to download a movie once.
If anybody knows the better Wi-Fi package to get sort of problem in the rural area, please let me know. So we're having nightmare. Sorry.
Yeah. We use 4G. Might be the answer for you, because 4G. No, satellite.
Yeah, might have to. Where's Elon?
Yeah, might have to. Yeah. Point south. So
yeah,
your transition. You went into Inzpire. Neat little segue into Inzpire. What do they do, and what's their backstory? They've got a really interesting backstory. I understand.
So up front, Inzpire's a company which is defence and aviation focused, specialising in expertise, training and managed services. It was set up by 3 RAF officers over a bottle of wine, classic story. And basically they're fed up with the experience of defence industry they had while serving, thought they could do it a little bit better, take on the primes as they set up a company. They had a vision to be the most respected company, a defence company on the planet, and that's their words, and that's been the focus really. It's about respect, honour, doing the right thing for the boys and girls in uniform, because we all were that, and that's the sort of approach that they go. So established back in 2005, it's now around 300 staff and growing. 80% of us are veterans, and now of all 3 services. So it's a very much a military place to work. However, with a lot of things, the transferable skills that we all have, we're now utilising and spreading from beyond defence to civil and industrial partners as well. So there's a lot that we can do. For example, the use of unmanned air systems that I work with. The military aspect is where we come from predominantly, but there's a lot of applications that can be done with our skill sets. Yeah.
I think 3 Wing Commanders in a Pub is a good book name.
Absolutely,
yeah, indeed. So you mentioned it was a bit like the extension of the military family. You just changed the colour of your flight suit from one day to the other.
Indeed, I mean it's got the ethos, the military banter, the crew room. It feels like that. We know most of us from our time serving, and most of us still have connections back, either reserve service or the contracts that we work. So it's, in terms of the transition, it couldn't be easier, because it's like a squadron where we just don't wear hats in some respects. Yet it's still got that professionalism, but there's a little bit more trust and empowerment that we had than we were in the military, which is great to see. And it's a great place to work.
Yeah, and sort of what you were saying, you've got a lot on the go. You can't tell me about all of it, but there's a lot of interesting projects on the go, and you've grown from about 180 to about 400 people over the past wee while.
It's probably about 300 at the moment. Getting to well, hopefully we'll be there before too long. We've got 4 key business areas of mission support systems, technical services, platform services, and collective training. And across those areas, there's a a lot of activity that we're doing, predominantly with the UK MOD, but also international and our civil partners. So my area obviously is my background as ISR. I've taken that into there. I work in the ISR division. So we look at offering training, consultancy from an expert perspective, and operational managed services to our customers, a lot of which at this day and age is with unmanned air systems, which is our focus.
Mm-hmm. And your Armed Forces Covenant Gold holders.
Yeah, we have been since 2019. Yeah,
indeed.
Yeah.
So leading the charge, and so it's a very military focused organisation. It's almost like a home from home. So in terms of what I always say, that there's a big culture shock leaving the armed forces and going into Civvy Street, but less so if you're going to organisations like Inzpire.
Absolutely.
So in terms of messages moving forwards onto to veterans or anybody who's thinking of transitioning out or they're very close to transitioning out, what sort of message would you be passing on to those people?
So there's a couple of things I'll pick up. That was I think you've got to believe in your value, and I think seeing some of the discussion here that's a common theme, that while we're told on one hand that we've got these great transferable skills, you're also told that got to get your foot in the door. It's not that way. You need to believe in yourself and know that you're the commodity. Get in the right area. If it's something that you're not experienced with, you've got to then translate your experience with transferable skills to a civilian organisation that won't understand your jargon. But in order to do that, you also got to be out there. So the second half is you've got to market yourself a little bit. We are used to, particularly in my world of intelligence, that you don't say anything, you're off social media, you're hidden, and rightly so for security reasons. But there's a time when you go into industry and you need to move into that, where you've got to market what you do and the skills, and in a way that everybody, that your customers out there can find is accessible and understandable. So you've got to be out there, and platforms like LinkedIn certainly helps.
Interesting point you make there is about using social media when you're in the armed forces. Recent conflicts, the one that's going on at the moment, social media is playing a very big part in it.
Enormous.
And also, I wrote an article a while back, Can You Be Secret and Social? And there are guidelines on the government website on how to use social media whilst you're serving in the military, in the armed forces. Yes, you can use it. Obviously, you just don't tell people where you're going.
Exactly.
And it's a great platform for anybody thinking of leaving the armed forces to engage with potential employers and potential people that could help you, and also reaching out to the veterans community, regardless of, there's a bit of banter going on between the forces on these Veterans Voice sessions, but regardless of force, anybody will help anybody who is transitioning out. So it's a great message. Anything else you'd like to bring up at all?
Oh gosh, on the spot. So
sorry, yeah. I was told to give you a hard time.
Yeah, well, yeah. Let's do some questions. Let's see if we've got any questions there. How about that?
Yeah, we can fire some questions. Well, there was a very good one that came in from James Hall. If you could change anything about your career, what would it be and why?
Oh, that's a good one. I've loved everything I've done. There's some things I would perhaps do differently and better. I would have perhaps been a bit more professional earlier in my career, and I would have. But the roles that I took were all the right roles. I enjoyed everything I did, and I think I left at the right time. So yeah, I don't know if I would really change much. I've learned from mistakes, so that was good.
Well, that's it. You don't actually learn from your successes, do you? You learn from your mistakes.
Yeah.
But now I'm not sure whether this one's got an ulterior motive or not. But
I've never been there. No idea.
You've never been there. Yes. And That was the one we brought in. And final question before we shut off for the day: what brings job satisfaction between being reservist and your civilian role? There's obviously a balance there.
I think I'm lucky in what we do is that if one day we are Inzpire delivering to the MOD, as a known veteran with a certain skill set. So it's very similar to being a military instructor. I'm just wearing a different uniform, so it's almost interchangeable, which is very, very good. Being in uniform at the right day on Remembrance Day certainly, still makes you proud. But Inzpire is so supportive of the military that I can wear orange and black, or I can wear my blue uniform. It sort of feels the same.
Yeah, I don't know who LinkedIn user is. Please pop your name in there. So can Link42 connect veterans with engineering skills to civilian companies looking for such capabilities? It's from Link42's perspective, we're not a recruiting organisation. However, there is a big skills gap in engineering at the moment, and yes, if you fire me a note, the skills that you have, I can show you how to use the wonderful search engines on LinkedIn to drill down into companies. There are a lot of companies looking for engineers. There's a shortage of engineers at the moment. BAE Systems at the moment are looking for a number of engineers. Lloyd Register are looking for a number of engineers. Wood are looking for a number of engineers, as are Babcock, I think. So just send me a note, whoever you are, and I can give you a few tips. This is a really interesting one. Did you use enhanced learning credits?
So I'll be honest, I tried hard, and everything I wanted to do wasn't valid, and the organisations weren't set up, and it's quite a laborious process to get a training organisation set up to be able to offer them. I wanted to do drone related activity. I wanted to get my qualifications using ELCs, and at that time, going out in 2017, 2018, that was not an option. There were small fry things you could do with the your basic credits and some of the money you can get from transition, but the ELCs where you could do something serious with it, no, it was, once again, you could get management stuff and a project management, which, to be frank, to me, if an employer's worth its salt, they're going to, and they want you to do a project management, they'll put you through that. So, and if I did one of them, it'll be the wrong one, and an employer would want a different one. So I didn't want to waste my time with that. So I did not use them. No.
Yeah. 80% of people don't. So you're amongst good friends. So it's a shame. It's a big issue. Not using enhanced learning credits. Another barrier is companies that can offer services to take advantage of enhanced learning credits. They have to have been in operation for at least 2 years. So the innovative startups, can't think of any off the top of my head, can't access those because they've got a couple of years to run. So it's a very good question there. No, I haven't contacted the list. One thing that Phil's popped up with, interesting comment there. Enhanced learning credits are not enough anymore. I don't know the level of them, but there's there's a potential, and this is a really interesting point for people considering using enhanced learning credits. If they're not enough, speaking with potential employers who could potentially help top up those enhanced learning credits. So they will have a reduced training budget because you're funding part of that of that training, and they could probably top it up. The other issue is you can still use enhanced learning credits for, I think it's 10 years, but it's going to go down to 5 years after you've left now, but you're then liable for the VAT. If there's companies interested in paying the VAT on those enhanced learning credits, then again, that's reduced training budgets for many people. So yeah, good question. And the one last comment before we shoot off: would you consider using your early learning credits? I have to change the name.
Early Learning Centre. I did actually work for them at one point.
All right, yeah. Well, spent many a time in there as a parent.
No, I made blackboards.
Would you consider using them for a PPL?
Yes. I mean, once again, though, I think I'll go back to Phil's point that it won't fund the PPL, will it? It will fund part of it. So if someone's got a spare bit of cash they would like to give me to top it up, let's go.
Yeah, because I know there's a couple of utilities inspection companies looking for helicopter pilots at the moment. Give me a shout and I can put you in touch with those. Right, that brings us neatly on to half an hour past, and that went like a rocket. So thank you very much, Dan, for joining us. Pretty short notice because my last week's or the intended. You were originally back end of November, I think, and the intended person couldn't make it because they'd forgotten they double booked me with a holiday, and the holiday took preference. So thank you for jumping in, Dan. Thank you for all the banter and the comments coming in. So Veterans Voice, if you like it, tell us you like it and tell your mates. If you don't like it, tell us why you don't like it, but just don't tell your mates. And we'll see you next week. And thank you very much, everybody. Cheerio.
Pleasure. Thank you very much, everyone. Cheers.
Cheers.